Yo, what's good? Amateur Lore here, and today we're looking at some college football teams who had incredible seasons that ended in heartbreak. We got a 30 minutes plus one today, so grab a snack and vibe out with me for a little bit. These videos take a while to make, so a like and a sub would be super appreciated. And oh yeah, be sure to comment any video ideas or teams you want me to cover. Half of this video actually came from a couple of your comments, so thanks for that. Alright, with that out of the way, let's jump right into the video. Alright, so y'all have been hounding me to cover this squad in the comments. And you know what? I'm a man of the people, so here we are today, talking about the 2021 Oklahoma State Cowboys. Okay, so coming into the 2021 season, the Pokes have been building up momentum for the past 2 years, winning 8 games back-to-back, finishing with a loss in the Texas Bowl in 2019, and in 2020 finishing the season with a Cheez-It Bowl win. Which is why when I went back in time and looked at the Big 12 preseason predictions for the season we're covering today, I was flabbergasted seeing that according to Bleacher Report, the Pokes were expected to finish 6th in the Big 12, finishing behind the Sooners, Iowa State, Texas, West Virginia, and TCU. A big reason for this placement, according to Bleacher Report, had to do with all the major production the Cowboys were losing, as their stud wide receiver who had also led the Big 12 in receiving in 2020, Tylan Wallace, was headed to the NFL draft, as well as star running back Chuba Hubbard. So I can see why they were expected to be a middle-of-the-pack team in the Big 12, but at the same time, they were returning their starting quarterback Spencer Sanders, and was also bringing a lot back on defense, as the Pokes were expected to have one of the better defenses in the country this year. I say all this to say, nobody knew what the hell to expect coming out of Stillwater this year, which is why this season was incredibly entertaining. So let's take a look at some of the key players and figures a part of the squad. Leading the program in his 17th year up to that point, we got, in my opinion, one of the best coaches in all of college football, Mike Gundy. And major shout out to him because the amount of close games the Pokes barely squeezed out this year was insane. And a sign of a decent coach to me is if your team can pull out close wins. And this team sure did a lot of that this year. Moving over to the most important position in sports, quarterback, this team was led by Spencer Sanders, who'd passed for 2,839 yards with 20 touchdowns, as well as rushing for 668 yards with 6 tutties. Sliding to the running back position, the team leader was Jaylen Warren, who rushed for 1,216 yards with 11 touchdowns. And this has nothing to do with anything, but Jaylen Warren was one of my go-to player props I'd smashed the over on last season in the NFL, whenever the Steelers were playing. Bro is so solid from the backfield. And finally, to round out the offense, we got wide receiver Tay Martin, who'd catch 80 passes for just over a bando and yards with 10 touchdowns. Alright, so to open up the 2021 college football season, the Oklahoma State Cowboys were already starting off the year with a little adversity, as their starting quarterback Spencer Sanders would be ruled out the first game due to COVID-19 protocols. So in his place, backup Shane Illingsworth would be getting the start in the season opener against the Missouri State Bears. This game should have been a blowout, but I'm going to cut the Pokes some slack because they were missing their starter. Anyway, this game was way closer than it should have been, with the final score being 23-16. Although I do have to mention Oklahoma State was up at halftime 20-3. Wideout Tay Martin was huge for the backup quarterback, catching 6 passes for 107 yards with a touchdown, giving the Cowboys offense at least one steady presence on the field this game. A win is a win though, and now the Pokes were 1-0 with a little in-state tune-up game next up on their schedule versus Tulsa. Spencer Sanders was back in the lineup, and this game should have been a nice little warm-up before the Cowboys went on the road to Boise State to face off against the powerhouse Group of 5 school, right?
1998, but the last time the Golden Hurricane won in Stillwater back in 1951.
Trying to get a lot of yardage back.
In the pocket, throws high, that's caught inside the 10, on his feet and into the end zone. It's Trayvon Fuller, defensively top of your screen. He stays back on 2nd and 11, over the middle, intercepted. It's picked off. On the return, it's Justin Wright, the linebacker, picks it. Oklahoma State, late getting guys off the field, wide open on the outside, touchdown to Jaylen Warren comes back in on 3rd down and 13. Here's the fade towards the end zone. It's caught. Was he in bounds?
Sideline, talking to the defense, getting everybody riled up right. He's in complete control right now, and it's something that Coach Montgomery is very happy about.
This is a return across the 40-yard line. L.D. Brown down the sideline. L.D. TD touchdown. From the 11 on 2nd and goal. It's Warren the right side. Slips away once, cuts back, and Warren bounces it outside. An amazing touchdown run for Jaylen Warren.
That's illegal.
I'm gonna chop up how close this game was due to it being a rivalry matchup. And I found this out while making this video, but this game is called the Turnpike Classic, which is a sick nickname. Alright, so Oklahoma State would take down the Golden Hurricane 28-23. Although halfway through the 3rd quarter, according to ESPN's win probability, Tulsa actually had a 65% chance to win after scoring a touchdown to go up 14-7. As we all saw though, the Pokes would, no pun intended, storm back, starting off with a 13-play 76-yard drive to open up the 4th quarter, and then after a field goal from Tulsa, L.D. Brown of Oklahoma State would return the kickoff for a 95-yard touchdown, giving them the lead 21-14, and from there they would hold on to the lead, winning 28-23. Sketchy game from the Pokes, but a win is a win, and now the Cowboys were sitting at 2-0 headed to Boise State for a huge matchup. And just like every game we've talked about so far during this season, this game would be super close. But at least this time there were some positives to take away from this game against the Broncos. As going into halftime, the Cowboys would hold a 21-20 lead, and from there the defense would hold on, not allowing Boise State to score for the rest of the game, winning 21-20. Before we move on, huge shout out to running back Jaylen Warren. Birdie went off this game rushing for 218 yards and 2 touchdowns. Just a magnificent performance from Warren on the ground this game, as well as the Oklahoma State defense. 3-0 and still currently not ranked in the top 25 yet for obvious reasons, the Pokes were getting ready to embark on a brutal stretch of Big 12 play, where they would be set to face off against 3 straight top 25 opponents. Them being at home versus 25th ranked Kansas State, another home game versus 21st ranked Baylor, and finally to end this stretch, a road game against the 25th ranked Texas Longhorns. Now, while the start of the season hadn't gone as smoothly as I'm sure most of the Cowboy faithful had expected, Oklahoma State was still 3-0, and if they could take their play to another level during these Big 12 conference games, their season would still be intact, and they'd be sitting pretty with the potential path to the 2021 college football playoffs.
Longtime Washington State wide receiver.
It's like they want to set up a screen to Jaylen Warren, and he has all sorts of pasture. Warren picking up where he left off last week in the Pacific Northwest. 3rd down and goal. It will be a keeper, and he will waltz and hop skip his way.
Here, 4th down into the boundary. Going to go one-on-one with Tay Martin. Over the top.
In the seam, making the catch near the goal line, bouncing around, still on his feet.
To work in his own territory, backed up against the goal line.
Joe Urban is the running back, and the ball is dropped. It's still loose. It's rolling in the end zone. Touchdown, Cowboys! Cassidy, the H-back. They're going to put that loft on the throw toward the corner. Breadbasket.
Old Deuce Vaughn, one of the more explosive backs in the country. 13 carries, 22 yards. Speaking of explosion.
When you're playing quarterback. They fake the jet sweep. Warren keeps it. Touchdown, Oklahoma. He's their second leading rusher, one of their top rushers. Play action, taking a shot into the end zone. Caught. Touchdown. 3rd and 4. Sanders fires. Tipped up. Picked off by Dylan Doyle. O'Hannon the toss. 1st down and then some. They gas the defense. And he's off. Smith looked at his rim. Really digs each other. They like each other. Little pressure off the edge. Bohannon taking a shot. Got a man. Caught. Bohannon got in. Touchdown. Warren. Touchdown.
Thompson guns it underneath, caught, 1st down. He's out of the offset eye. Robinson left, cuts it in. Touchdown. Thompson. Touchdown, UT. 3rd down and 10. Oh, it's intercepted. Jason Taylor down the sideline. Cowboys storming back 85 yards. Season as the backup to Hudson Card. And it's Robinson again. Bijan Robinson. Give him the ball. At the 7. Play fake. Sanders rolls out. Fires. Touchdown Cow. Warren at the 40. Warren down the sideline. Jaylen. And it's good. 1st and goal. Sanders will run it. Touchdown Cowboys. What a comeback for Oklahoma State.
The Oklahoma State Cowboys would go 3-0 through this tough stretch of Big 12 play, starting with a 31-20 win over the Kansas State Wildcats. This game, although the score seemed close, was actually dominated by the Cowboys, as they would outgain the Wildcats by 220 yards, as well as more than doubling their amount of 1st downs. Quarterback Spencer Sanders put together one of his better performances of the season, passing for 344 yards with 2 touchdowns, which definitely helped in the Pokes' decisive victory. Next up was a home game versus Baylor, and although the boys would win 24-14, with about 12 minutes left in the 4th quarter, the Pokes only held a 17-14 lead. I know I just mentioned that Spencer Sanders had a great game. Well, against the Bears, he would shit the bed, throwing 3 interceptions. Thankfully for him, his defense had his back. And before we move on to the final game, shout out to running back Jaylen Warren, as he was this game's MVP, rushing for 125 yards with 2 touchdowns. Alright, so for the final game during this stretch on the road against the Texas Longhorns, Oklahoma State would find themselves down early into the 2nd quarter 17-3. Like they had done all season though, the Pokes defense would make a huge play, as Jason Taylor II would pick off quarterback Casey Thompson, taking it to the house for an 85-yard touchdown. From there, the boys would ride the momentum into the 2nd half, cutting the Longhorns' lead down to 4. Texas would come out of halftime striking first on a big run from Bijan Robinson. But from there, the Pokes would buck up, scoring 19 unanswered points to win the game 32-24. After going perfect through this tough stretch of conference play, Oklahoma State now had a record of 6-0. It would move up in the polls all the way up to the 8th spot in the country. I know their start to the season was a little awkward, but I think it was safe to say the Pokes were back in business and in a really good spot to make their first ever college football playoffs. Alright, so what was next up on the Cowboys' schedule? Oh, look at this. Oklahoma State was set to travel to Iowa State to face off against the current 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy. The Pokes would be up 14-7 going into halftime, but there was just something that felt a little off during this game. I really couldn't put my finger on it. Could the Cowboys come out of halftime and finish off the job, or will we get a flashback to 2011?
In a game of this magnitude, that's just a call you cannot make.
Purdy to pass on 3rd and 1. Catch made! This is for the lead. And he is good right down. Messy pocket, he releases, and that's a touchdown! Bring Kohler in tight, and hand to Breece Hall. Breece Hall, painted! Presley, met, stuffed. Well, let's see where they put him.
After further review, the ruling on the field stands. First down, Iowa State.
I am so sorry. I did not mean to give any of my viewers that are diehard Oklahoma State fans PTSD, but we have to talk about the Pokes' loss to the Iowa State Cyclones. So, as we all know, the Cowboys would lose on the road 24-21, but it's not like they played bad, as they were in this game for all 4 quarters, and actually held the lead late into the 4th. However, unlike in most of their games so far this season, the Pokes were unable to clutch out the close game, as right after the Cowboys would finally take the lead back in the 4th quarter, Brock Purdy and the Iowa State Cyclones would respond with a pretty impressive 6-play, 85-yard drive that would end in a 4-yard touchdown run from Breece Hall, giving the Cyclones the lead once again. The Pokes would have a chance to keep their undefeated season alive, but it would all come down to a 4th and 2, but they would sadly fall just short, falling to Iowa State. Now, while this loss was tough and I'm sure it brought back some dormant feelings, it would only shoot the Pokes back in the rankings to the 15th spot in the latest polls. So if they could bounce back and finish their season off strong, a Big 12 title and potential playoff bid was still more than possible. Alright, so I'm going to speed run past the Pokes' next 4 games since this part of the video is already getting lengthy and we still have a couple more huge games to cover. So Oklahoma State would breeze by their next 4 opponents, taking down Kansas 55-3, West Virginia 24-3, TCU 63-17, and finally to end this 4-game stretch a 23-0 win against the Texas Tech Red Raiders. The Pokes would now be sitting with a record of 10-1 and would climb their way back into the college football playoff rankings, being positioned at the 7th spot going into rivalry week, where Oklahoma State would arguably be playing in one of their biggest games of the last decade, a matchup at home against the 10th ranked Oklahoma Sooners. This game had so much on the line as the winner would be locked in for the Big 12 title game and would be one step closer to making it to the college football playoff. But besides that, there was a lot of pride on the line as the Pokes were going on 6 straight years of losing to their in-state rival. And to add even more stakes on top of all of this game was my first time ever placing a bet, which would start my lifelong battle with losing money to Hard Rock. And if you're wondering who I chose to win this game, I chose Oklahoma.
31st Bedlam game for Gundy. As a head coach, he's 2-14. But for a change, Kirk, they feel pretty good about the quarterback matchup here because Spencer Sanders, not the most spectacular, but solid, consistent this year.
And he's been around for 3 years, plays with a lot of emotion. Now they've asked him to be a different kind of quarterback. He doesn't need to be dynamic. He just needs to manage the game and not turn it over.
I think Lincoln Riley.
Brennan Presley, Dominic Richardson are deep. You see at the kickoff. Sanders loops the ball downfield. Caught! Touchdown! That is here a little bit. Williams on the run. Fires and wide open is Jeremiah Hall. The H-back rumbling down the field. The man who scored the trick play. 2nd and goal. Pressure comes. Deliver. Touchdown. Nice pitch and kick. To Warren, end around to Martin, who just waltzes in. They're in a pressure, launch to the end zone, one-on-one, caught, touchdown. On the road against one of the better defenses in America. From the goal line, Presley, another good return. Once again, he's finding space, cuts it back. Brennan Presley into Oklahoma territory. Can they run him down? Touchdown, Oklahoma State, a lightning strike, 100 yards. 3-man rush, plenty of time, delivered in traffic, and it's intercepted by Washington. He's got a convoy down the sideline. Washington leaps into the end zone, pick 6. Williams once again, jump ball end zone, barrel, catch made, touchdown. At their 8-yard line in this tie ball game. No signal yet. 6 catches. Option look, Sanders keeps it, makes a cut, first down, still running. Spencer Sanders all the way. So Tom Hutton, the 31-year-old lefty from Australia, second oldest player in college football, kicks it back there, and that punt is blocked. And Oklahoma State falls right at the 5-yard line. Trying to catch the Sooner defense flat-footed, and pushing the pile in for a touchdown. Warren gives Oklahoma State the lead back. A 5-yard drive after Gray's might. Then they find him perhaps. Williams collects the snap, has to evade the rush, and has a lot of space. Still running. Look at him go. Caleb Williams to the 30, run out of the 25. He's got some magic to him. Timeouts. They get it off. Williams in traffic. Dropped. Sacked by Colin Oliver. And the Pokes are going to win Bedlam.
Man, I forgot how intense this game was. It really was fun going back and rewatching the highlights. I literally had no idea how the Pokes were going to come back after they muffed the punt and the Sooners were able to score a really fluky touchdown to extend their lead to 2 scores. But credit to them because they responded in a way that I'm sure made the loyal fans that rep Cowboy Nation extremely proud, scoring twice to give them the 37-33 lead. But I think what was even more impressive was how the Cowboys defense was able to lock back in after giving up that huge run to Caleb Williams and sack him on 4th down, putting the game away. Just major props all around to the Oklahoma State football team because in a rivalry game like this, it took nearly everything out of the Pokes to pull out this win. Now sitting at 11-1 and being ranked at the 5th spot in the latest college football playoff rankings, there was only one game between the Pokes and possibly making their first college football playoffs in program history, a rematch versus the 9th-ranked Baylor Bears in the Big 12 championship game. And if you're wondering why I said they'd possibly make the CFP, well that's because in the 2021 season there was a certain undefeated Group of 5 school ranked ahead of them named the Cincinnati Bearcats. And I honestly have no idea if the committee would put the Pokes in over them if they were to win the Big 12 championship game. What do y'all think? Let me know down below in the comments. Regardless, none of that matters if the Pokes couldn't take down the Bears in the Big 12 title game.
He is the special teams player of the year of the Big 12 for the 2nd year in a row. And we're underway. And it's a touchback. That game, and they were ranked earlier in that week for the first time this season. Sanders throws too high and intercepted. And being run back by J.T. Woods inside the 10 and out of bounds. And interesting fake and work. It's a touchdown to Ben. Quarterback has his team up 7-3 and threatening again. Throws for an open receiver. Touchdown. Single coverage. End zone. Shaping. It is caught. A rough day, but he's leading them back. Touchdown. To offense for Oklahoma State coming in last 5 games over 450 a game. Recovers the muff punt. Manageable. 8 to go. Movement up front on the pass rush. Throw caught. Down at the 1. Desmond Jackson, the catch. They have a goal line stand and force the chip shot field goal. They mix in the run. Desmond Jackson. This attempts a career high for Spencer Sanders. Throws another, wide open and caught. Richardson on 1st and goal. They're not going to run it. It's a quick slant for K. Martin. A minute and a half to go in the conference title game. They throw it up for Martin and a flag down.
Pass interference. Defense, number 37.
Lacey, the defensive end, is a blocker. Jackson. Smith, 2nd and goal. Jackson again tries to go up and over and did not get in. On 3rd and goal. This time they will try to throw it. Up for grabs and incomplete. If you score in all likelihood. And perhaps the CFP. Jackson trying to turn the corner. And he did not get there. Jaron McVay raced him to the pylon and made sure.
Man, I'm not going to really harp on the Pokes' 21-16 loss to the Baylor Bears because I could feel your pain watching this. Not only did the most important player on your team not play his best football, throwing 4 costly interceptions, but your defense kept doing the game, setting up a dramatic 1st and goal situation, and you got stopped 4 times in a row. Real heartbreaking stuff, and I know this means absolutely nothing, but at least the Cowboys would finish off their season with a win in the Fiesta Bowl 37-35 against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Okay, leaving Stillwater, we head over to the Swamp to talk about my favorite college football team, the Florida Gators. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, which Gator team am I going to choose from? And to that I say, are you trying to troll me? There's only like 2 seasons to choose from. We're not Bama. We only had, in my opinion, like 2 legit chances to make the college football playoffs since its inception. That being 2019 and the year we're covering today, 2015. And I hear some of you in the back saying, what about 2020? Well, you can talk to Marco Wilson about that. Alright, so coming into one of my favorite seasons ever from Florida, the Gators were not having too much success in college football at the time, going 4-8 back in 2013 and 7-5 during the 2014 season. And it was at this point I had finally realized what being an adult was all about, being okay with 7-5 seasons. So I want to say thank you, Will Muschamp, for teaching me how harsh the world is when you get older. Looking back at some of the 2015 SEC predictions according to 247 Sports, the Florida Gators were expected to be bottom feeders in the SEC East, expected to finish 5th in the SEC East behind teams such as South Carolina, Missouri, Georgia, and Tennessee. And when you think about how bad the offense had been over the last couple of years, their ranking in the SEC East kind of made sense. However, if the Florida offense could put things together, then the sky was the limit for this team, because defense was never the problem for Florida in the 2010s. That was an extremely short intro. Now let's take a look at some of the key figures wreaking havoc in the SEC this year. Leading the Florida Gators in his first year up to that point at head coach, we got Jim McElwain. And Gator fans, let me know down below how you feel about his tenure in Florida. I really don't have too much to say. He was just alright if you ask me. So we can go over to QB, the team lead in passing, and the dude who'd finish out the season starting was Treon Harris, who'd pass for 1,676 yards with 9 touchdowns. But who am I kidding? My QB from 2015 was and will always be the Barry Bonds of college football, Will Grier. When he was on the field, he passed for just over 1,200 yards with 10 touchdowns. Moving over to the running back room, the team leader was Kelvin Taylor, who'd rush for just over a Band-Aid on the ground with 13 Teddy Roosevelt. And finally, to round out the offense, Antonio Callaway, who'd catch 35 passes for 678 yards with 4 touchdowns. And those stats sound just about right for Florida Gators football. Before we jump into the college football season, I have to shout out the All-American defensive back Vernon Hargreaves III. He was a beast all season, picking off 4 passes. To begin the 2015 college football season, the Gators would start 3-0 with wins against New Mexico State 61-13, Eastern Carolina 31-24, and Kentucky 14-9. Now, while being 3-0 was really cool, the offense had really lacked during these 3 games to start the season. And yes, they were able to move the ball, but a lot of their drives were not ending in scores as they should. But there was at least a couple of positives to take away from the start to the season, which was that Florida had potentially found their dude at quarterback, Will Grier, and the defense was looking good as usual. So if they could just tighten up their offense, then something special could potentially be brewing in Gainesville. Unfortunately for Florida, there wasn't any more tune-up games left, as they were hosting the SEC preseason favorites according to 247 Sports, the Tennessee Volunteers. And this game would start off ugly for Florida. They would be down 2 scores in the 3rd quarter with their backs against the wall.
Dobbs retreats, will take off, looks for a downfield block. He's down, he's 1 for 1 in this ball game. Now he's 2 for 2. 3 wide to the right, rear back, slant pattern caught. At the 10, at the 5. Gain of 21, 1st and goal. Kelvin Taylor, touchdown! Wide left, 3rd and goal. Whoa, left side, Hurd, touchdown! 4 and 7 right here. Rear, back foot. Caught, 1st down. Go to him again. Instead he goes to Powell, to the 10. Spin move, to the 5. Fade by Oklahoma. Into the end zone, Powell! Here's Grier. Lot of time. Got it! Antonio Callaway! Down the sidelines! Touchdown! Florida! Here's Dobbs. Low. Wolf. It's going to go just right. He had the distance. The streak is at 11.
It wasn't pretty, but the Gators would get the job done, winning 28-27 against the Tennessee Vols. And while Will Grier didn't necessarily have the best game, boy was he clutch. I couldn't even count how many 4th downs Brody converted. And even though Will was Mr. Clutch, the Gators still needed the Vols to miss that field goal at the end. But at the end of the day, all that matters was the Florida Gators had won the game, and we're now sitting with a record of 4-0 and would crack the top 25 for the first time all season, being ranked right at the 25th spot. That one really did something for the Gators' morale as a football team. Close wins bring the team closer, and you really find out a lot about your team when adversity hits. You know what they say, pressure makes diamonds, and Will Grier was our figurative diamond. That game versus Tennessee gave Will Grier a huge confidence boost, and the way he was able to bring his team back definitely meant everybody was now bought in and believed in their guy under center. And all of that couldn't have came at a more perfect time, as next up on the 25th Florida Gators schedule was a home game against the 3rd-ranked Ole Miss Rebels, who had just got done taking down the 2nd-ranked Alabama's Crimson Tide. This game was going to be huge and would have major college football playoff implications on the line. Could the Gators offense match the high-powered offense of the Ole Miss Rebels?
Brandon Powell is deep for Florida. Here we go. Play action. Grier off his back foot, fires deep. Man's there. Got it. Touchdown. DeMarcus Robinson. Inside the 32. It'll be 2nd and 3. The ball is out. Florida's got it. They fake it to him. Wide open. Touchdown. McGee. They try to put points up for the Rebels. And he missed it. Gator fans. Kelly running out of time again. Going down again.
Him on 3rd down.
Extra man on the blitz. Crossing route. It's Powell in the open field. And look out. He's even. He's leaving. Touchdown. 2nd and 7 at the 15. He's set to throw again. Down the middle and a strike it is. Callaway. Touchdown. And again they're going to. And here's Kelly on the keeper. His best run of the night takes him into Gator territory, but the ball is out. It's picked up by Alex McAllister. Florida. Kelly fires, intercepted by Hargraves. Down the sideline for Hargraves, a hurdle and inside the 10-yard line. And he's going to dance some more.
As a Florida fan, I must say, this game was amazing to watch live and rewatch again for this video. The Gators dominated this match from the start of the game until the finish, and for some reason during this game, the Florida passing offense was looking like the 2019 LSU Tigers. Willie Sosa would have his best game of the season from the pocket, going 24 of 29 for 271 yards with 4 touchdowns, and all of those touchdowns were thrown in the first half to 4 different receivers. Before I move on, I also want to give a huge shout out to the Gators defense, as they would force 4 turnovers and keep the Ole Miss Rebels offense from scoring a touchdown all the way up until the 4th quarter. Legit, everyone from the defense to the special teams played well this game and all contributed to Florida taking down the 3rd-ranked Rebels 38-10. The huge win over the 3rd-ranked Ole Miss Rebels would bring Florida's record on the season to 5-0 and would catapult the rankings in the latest polls all the way up to the 11th spot in the country. Florida was off to an extremely hot start to the season and would keep the Heartstock going, as in their next game on the road versus the Missouri Tigers, the Gators would win pretty convincingly, taking down the Tigers 21-3. Will Grier was decent from the pocket, passing for 208 yards, but the real MVP of this game was the defense, as they wouldn't allow Missouri to reach the end zone all game, and would hold the Missouri offense under 257 total yards. The Florida Gators were building up incredible momentum, now sitting with a record of 6-0, and their ranking in the latest polls would move up to the 8th spot. However, like most times in life, your highest highs are followed by your lowest lows, as the Florida Gators starting quarterback Will Grier would get suspended for the rest of the 2015 college football season due to testing positive for a banned performance-enhancing substance known as Ligandrol. And I probably pronounced that name wrong, I'm sorry, I'm not a pharmacist. The suspension to the Florida Gators starting quarterback couldn't have come at a worse time, as Florida's next game was going to be a huge one, as they would be traveling to Death Valley to face off against the 6th-ranked LSU Tigers led by Leonard Fournette. The Gators were already coming into this game down one of their key players, and it was going to be up to quarterback Treon Harris to take the mantle from Will Grier and lead this Gator team to a victory in Death Valley. Could he and the Florida Gators get the job done, or would traveling to the most hostile place in the country be too big of a task?
In SEC play, with Todd Blackledge and Holly Rowe, I'm Brad Nessler. LSU won the toss. They deferred to the second half. For the Tigers, Cameron Gamble will kick, and Brandon Powell is back deep for Florida. Nothing like a Saturday night in Louisiana. Ronnie Townsend to kick for Florida. And they're going to have to get out of the way. No, he tried to take it on one hop, but that was a bad mistake. The help block. Harris throws on the run. Got his man in the corner. It's a touchdown.
Best in the country at not giving up touchdowns in the red zone.
Wow, did Bullard get a big jump, but it didn't matter. Fournette got the corner, and he bowls his way here, tied for best in the country. He's heading to the outside for number 13. Favorite target for Harris tonight. 3rd down and 6, throws in the middle to Fournette's got a blocker. Leonard Fournette broke a tackle, spins inside the 15. Harris looking that way, fires to the corner. Got it! Malakot. The toss to Fournette, and it's a flea flicker. Back to Harris, going long. Dupree has got it! Fournette at the tailback spot, going straight ahead. Leonard Fournette, touchdown! For about 3.5 hours on a weekend. Harris again. avoids the rush, and he's going long, and he's got a man. Did he make the catch? Wow. Callaway did. They fake it to Taylor, and Harris goes to the end zone to the tight end. Up some ground here for him in the final 27 seconds. Brandon Harris wanted to go long, I think, and this is the last thing you want to do is get sacked. He didn't, and he will throw deep. And it's caught by Dupree. Touchdown. Down 18. Treon Harris straight up the middle. Broke one tackle. Nice run inside the 20, and he's going to get a first down or very close. He's about a yard shy. Steve over to the left side. Kelvin Taylor, he's trying to get a block for him. Taylor cuts it in. Touchdown, Gators. Nice kick. Callaway's got a back pedal to the 28. Slips a little bit and now comes forward. Antonio Callaway at midfield. He might take it. Callaway to try to tie the game. Touchdown. 15 and a couple of touchdowns. Play action. Here's the throw to the tight end, and he got drilled at the 17-3. This guy hasn't missed yet. This will be a 33-yard attempt for Domingue. And it's a fake. The throw to Domingue. He bobbles it, and there it hits to the end zone. Touchdown. A marker. Harris runs up. Time has expired. Still moving around, trying to find a place to let fly. And here it comes. As far as he can put it up there. And it's out of bounds. And LSU has won it at home to stay perfect.
The boys would fight hard, but LSU had our number this game as Florida would lose to the Tigers 35-28. We stormed back and kept the game competitive, and dare I even say that after that punt return, it felt like maybe the Gators had stolen back some of the momentum. But the Mad Hatter himself would pull out trickery that only he could, nailing the Florida Gators special team once again, with no cap a beautiful fake field goal that would result in 6 for the Tigers, giving them the lead, and for the rest of the game their defense would do their job, keeping the Gators out of the end zone. While losing is always tough, if there was ever a game for Florida to lose, it was this one. And the loss to the Tigers would bring the Gators' record on the season to 6-1, and their rankings in the latest polls would fall back only to the 11th spot. So while Florida still had a lot to figure out, especially regarding their offense and quarterback position, at least they were still in the hunt for a playoff spot with a chance to make the big dance if they could put it all together. And that's sort of what they would do, taking down Georgia and Jacksonville in a pretty dominant fashion, winning 27-3, Vanderbilt 9-7. Okay, I know I said they were putting it together, but that might have just been cope, as it would take a field goal with less than 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock to take down the Commodores. And in the following weeks, things wouldn't get much better, as Florida would take down South Carolina 24-14, and in an ugly game beat FAU in overtime 20-14. And I know that win over FAU looks Mickey Mouse, but FAU was like 10-0 that year, so chill. I'm just kidding, that's more cope. They were 2-8, but a win is a win. And the Gators were now sitting with a record of 10-1, and because they didn't look too good at the end of the season before rivalry week, Florida would fall back in the polls to the 12th spot. Alright, so things were not looking too good down in Gainesville. The offense was non-existent, and the Gators had fallen out of the top 10. However, they did clinch the SEC East and secure themselves a spot in the SEC Championship game, so they could take down the 9-2 13th ranked Florida State Seminoles, and then somehow pull off some type of 1980 Miracle on Ice type of magic and beat the Alabama Crimson Tide, then Florida would surely be a lock for the college football playoffs. But none of that matters unless the Gators could take down their in-state rivals.
Fake. McGuire throws back against his body. Touchdown. Cook again. Another big hole straight up the middle. Cook. Touchdown. Cook. Nice misdirection. Dalvin Cook. See ya.
Yeah, man, this 27-2 loss to Florida State was brutal. Not only is losing to your in-state rival not a good feeling, but when you have a chance to make the college football playoffs, and I'm talking about the 4-team playoff that was nearly impossible to make back in the day, losing in your final regular season game is just heartbreaking. And I think the worst part of it all is that usually I say near the end of my videos, let's end on a positive note, but sadly this season wouldn't get any better, as Florida would lose in the SEC title game to Bama 29-15, and in our bowl game versus Michigan, we would get smacked around 41-7, putting our final record on the season at 10-4 and putting it into this video.